happiest of holidays, Saxophone Academy. We've got a lot to cover today, but I just want to say sincerely thank you. We passed 50,000 subscribers this year, which really blows my mind. I really have a hard time wrapping my head around that fact. But I've really enjoyed learning and growing and sharing things with you this year and having great conversations in the comments. And I wanted to give back, so I have a gift for you. So today we have a very special duet based off one of my favorite records. It's a 1959 Paul Desmond with guitarist Jim Hall, Greensleeves. And I actually commissioned New York-based saxophonist and composer and arranger Christopher Peebles to write a duet off that. I have alto and tenor parts. I'll put links down below. We've got a lot to cover, but let's listen to your Christmas gift that you're going to download and play. Now, before you log off and start practicing and recording this, let's talk about a couple of key concepts for improvising over these chord changes. We've got a couple of great teachable moments in this. But before I forget, if you want to give back, one of our frequent collaborators and colleagues, Tyler Anderson, has some very cool art. You might want to treat yourself as a holiday gift, and 100% of the proceeds go to support him and his mission in saxophone and art creation. There will be some information at the end of this video, and I'll also put a link below. But let's talk about improvising over these chord changes. Now, if you want a backing track for this, iRoll Pro has it under the holiday section. Help each other out in the comments below if anyone needs help finding it. But it's under What Child Is This? Same chord changes as Greensleeves that we're going over today. Now, let's get you soloing over these changes, talking about two concepts. Number one, something that I talk about time and time again with my students, but it's a difficult concept to wrap your head around depending on how you grew up in your jazz studies. But big lesson number one that we need to think about when playing these chord changes is chords don't have scales. Chords are chords, scales are scales. They don't match up. It's completely context dependent. So let's take a look at the opening chord changes of Greensleeves, or What Child Is This? And we'll notice we see, this is the alto part, we have the tenor part in the down note as well, a D minor chord. But D minor is not D minor. If I show you a D minor chord and say, what scale works over this? You can't answer in isolation. Well, you shouldn't answer because you won't have the correct answer because context is dependent. So let's look at a couple different examples of this chord and find the right fit for improvising over this. So the most common place we see this chord, especially as alto and tenor players, is in the context of C major. It's the 2 chord. And then we would use the Dorian mode as a great fit because it works in the key of C major. C major, D Dorian, G Mixolydian, they're all the same notes. And the D Dorian works over this. So let's listen to just me noodling over the D Dorian mode, but in the context of C major. And again, the Dorian mode is the same as C major, same as G Mixolydian. They're the same notes. We can just start on different points. And honestly, I'm not thinking D Dorian, G Mixolydian, C major. My brain is just thinking, I'm building melodies in C major. And that's an ongoing conversation that we've had in the past that we'll continue to have. So you may think, okay, cool, D minor chord, D Dorian. No. What if we're in a different key area? What if we're in the key of not C major, but home key of D minor? Well, Dorian, those notes will work, but it's not the best choice for outlining that example. So let's take a look at some D minor, the home key of D minor. We could tell it's D minor because of the minor 2-5, where we have that flat 5 and that flat 9. Those are a minor 2-5, which helps us recognize that as a minor home key. Here we're looking at D minor. There, the harmonic minor scale is going to be the best choice because it really is, well, as my mentor says, the harmonic minor scale is the major scale of minor scales, meaning it really outlines that home key and that 2-5. Let's listen to this set of chord changes using just the D harmonic minor scale. Now let's look at this D minor chord in the context of Greensleeves, which happens many, many, many times throughout these chord changes. And you may ask, do we use harmonic minor or Dorian mode? Neither. And the reason is this is all operating in the home key of B flat major. Now, bear with me. If you looked at the melody when we're playing the duet, it looks like C minor. It's built off C Dorian, the melody. It's very modal because this is an old folk tune, long before the more traditional functional harmony that we study in music school. And it's built off C Dorian, which is the second scale degree of B flat major. So this all operates in the key. All these chords, aside from the little sneakeroo C major that you'll see later on, operating in the key of B flat major, but starting on different scale degrees. So in this case, the D there is D Phrygian. D, the third scale degree of B flat major. Now, if your eyes are glazing over, you've got a slight nosebleed, and you're thinking, I don't want to play jazz anymore, falconry sounds like a really good hobby, don't worry, because I promise you, when I'm playing over these chord changes, I am not thinking C Dorian something something D Phrygian. I'm simply thinking C Dorian, and I have that home key of B flat major in my head. Well, the home kind of relative key of B flat major, but I'm thinking C Dorian the entire time. So when we get to that D minor chord or the E flat major chord later on, the whole time I'm keeping that B flat key signature in my head and C Dorian. So let's listen to these chord changes just playing that D Phrygian, which are the same notes as C Dorian. Now, this is a lesson we're going to come back to again and again and again, but I really want you to take away, make it a mantra, write it on a sheet of paper, eat it, ingest it, but realize that chords tell you 3 notes or 4 notes if it's a 7th chord. It tells you the 1st, 3rd, and 5th of what's in the chord. It doesn't tell you what's in between. It doesn't tell you what scale fills in those gaps. Context does. And again, every note can work over any chord. It's how we use it. But understanding how it functions within a key, then we can start making some great melodies. Now, another important concept I want to cover is rhythm. This is a jazz waltz. I love playing jazz waltz. It's in 3/4 time, which really creates a completely different feel and beat placement, obviously, because we have 1 less beat per measure than we're used to playing in 4/4 time. That can cause a trap that some students fall into where they always want to play on the downbeats. And it's fine to play in downbeats. Downbeats are super duper. But if we always start every phrase starting on the downbeat or playing on the downbeat of every measure, it doesn't have the variety and the kind of feel that our heroes use. So let's not guess at what to do. Let's take a look at the master Paul Desmond, which this duet is based off, and let's listen to the way he plays over these opening chords. And right off the bat, you'll notice simplicity. He's really just outlining the chords, but he does it in such a beautiful way that it doesn't sound like he's just spelling chords. He's making an arpeggiated melody over this. But also look where he's starting on the beats or not starting directly on the beats. It creates a beautiful syncopation, which creates a lilting rhythm over this. So how do we achieve that in our own practice? Well, we practice. In order to improvise, we have to practice improvising. So a great thing to do is put on a loop. Get on your iReal Pro and just put 4 bars on a loop, like I'm about to do in just 1 second. And then practice a concept. So you may practice a couple times through just practicing that feeling of D Phrygian, that C Dorian over the B flat major. You get what I'm talking about. Or we may just practice expanding the range or an idea or a phrase or a lick we've learned. But another thing we could do is just practice a rhythmic concept. So what you might do is put on this backing track and you know the mode or scale that works beautifully over this section and just practice syncopation. Just use these notes of the C Dorian minor and practice just not starting on the beat. Make it a little exercise. I'm not going to write this out because that defeats the point. We want to practice improvising. So have the concept of rhythm, working on syncopation, and then improvise using that. You'll play some things that don't sound great, but the more you improvise, the more comfortable you'll be improvising. So it might sound something like this. I really hope you have fun practicing this duet and working on these solo changes. If you'd like to share what you've been working on, you can actually tag me on your YouTube video. I'm Dr. Wally Sax, I think is my user name. I haven't really looked into it, but you can figure it out. Tag me or link me or send me a message. I'd love to hear you working on this too. I am truly grateful for you watching and joining me this year. It's been a really fun year. We've got big things happening next year I'm excited to share. But in the meantime, I want you to watch a video from my colleague who's come over here and spent so much of his generous time sharing with us, Tyler Anderson. He's created some very cool art, which might be a great gift for you or a loved one this holiday season to adorn your practice space. So enjoy, and I will see you in the next year. And as always, go practice.
What is going on, Saxophone Academy? This is Tyler Anderson, and I am a professional saxophone player and filmmaker. I wanted to take this moment to share with you a piece of saxophone-inspired art that I created to display in my own space, but also that I want to share it with all of my saxophone brothers and sisters out there. As I continue on my journey with the saxophone, it becomes more and more important to me to be around reminders that this is supposed to be fun. It's very easy to get bogged down, feeling frustrated and discouraged because this craft and this art takes a lot of time and patience. So I created this poster to remind me not only of some of my favorite saxophone players, but also of the playful nature of this music and improvising in general. Now, in just a moment, I'm going to share with you how I made this poster, but real quick, I want to let you know that we are just doing a limited release of these. We only printed 100, and once they are gone, they are gone. Each poster is going to hit the mail, hand-signed, and with a personal note from me. All right, let's check out how this thing was made. I started out this project by starting the way any project should start, which is with the proper sandwich. There's no way that I was going to feel nourished enough to make this without the proper meats and cheese. After finishing my sandwich and feeling properly fueled, I decided to head over to my record collection and pick out all of the records that had my favorite saxophone playing on them. I then decided to take some high quality photos of the album covers and have them printed. This was all going to turn into a collage, so I obviously didn't want to wreck my actual album artwork. After I had gotten these printed, I decided to take out all of my practice frustration on each of these prints, ripping them up into a bunch of tiny pieces with the exception of a few parts. I then began the process of creating my collage. It was very important to me that the process of making this was going to be a very tactile experience, so I really enjoyed working with all the ripped textures that I had created. After a couple of hours, I had finished my collage and decided to endeavor out into the world to find some fun textured buildings to take some pictures that would eventually become the backdrop for this collage. I journeyed all around downtown Winston-Salem, but I ended up deciding to use what I thought I would use, which is these gold doors on the outside of the Millennium Center, which is an event center in downtown Winston-Salem. So I used a really nice photo of my collage and using some Photoshop magic combined that with this door. Next, I thought it would be fun to digitally cut out the saxophone that was on this collage and replace it with some photos of some gold leaf. So I went on Amazon and ordered some gold leaf. While I waited for it to arrive, I made sure to take a break and watch some stuff on Amazon Prime. It only felt fitting. Once the gold leaf arrived, it took a minute to put it in some proper lighting, but once I got it, I got some really great photos and used those to once again do some Photoshop magic and put that into the poster. There you go, everybody. That is how this poster was made. I'm very excited to have it hanging in my space. I know it's going to bring me lots of great practice energy, and I'm very excited to share it with you. Once again, we are just doing a limited release. We printed 100, and once they are gone, they are gone. So make sure to pick it up soon. Happy practicing.